So good afternoon. My topic for today is the needs assessment. So what comes to your mind if you need the words needs of assessment? So the first step in the developing training program is to determine what is the organizational needs in terms of the training. So there are three levels of the needs assessment. The first one is the organizational assessment. In this type of needs assessment, we can determine the skills, knowledge, and abilities a company needs and meet the strategy objectives. And also, it considers things such as changing demographic and technological trend. And also, look how the organization as well as a whole and can handle its weaknesses while promoting strength. So the next one is the occupational task assessment. This type of assessment look at the specific task skills, knowledge, and abilities required to do job within the organization. And the last one is the individual assessment. An individual assessment look at the performance of an individual employee and determines what training should be accomplished for that individual. So, a training needs assessment and a pre-training knowledge and skills assessment are required to help plan an effective training program. The needs assessment should encompass the overall working environment, including the supervisory structure and the level of employee motivation. A knowledge and skills assessment evaluate the participants' level of prior knowledge as well as the previous training and the experience. In the area of interest, the result of the assessment are used to develop the training learning objectives and ultimately the content. A knowledge assessment can be used or based on observation of a worker performing routine duties. This review uncovers both strengths and weaknesses, but the presence of an observer may influence the behavior. So that's all of my part. Thank you.
Right, good day everyone. My name is John Clyde Garces, a BTVTED Electronics 3D student, and my topic is all about trainers and participants guide for a workshop. It will be a brief reporting, so please bear with me. Okay, trainer's guide. Number one, learning objectives and content of the unit. Dito sa part na to, sa trainer's guide, yung first one, dapat malaman ng isang trainer yung objective, kung ano yung patutunguhan ng kanyang content. And especially dapat malaman ng trainer ang content ng kanyang gagawin. The second one is preparation that the trainer may take. Preparation sa lahat. It is talking generally. Like sa sarili ng isang trainer, like preparing him or herself para makapagturo, and preparing some things like mga, what do you call this, mga present niya, yung mga gagawin niya, like mga instructional materials na gagawin. So dapat i-prepare na po yun lahat. So the third one is supplementary reading materials. Now, what do you mean by supplementary reading materials? Ito po siya, mga reading materials to na naka-base sa core na isang, ano ba tawag dito? Core na dapat malaman ng mga estudyante kung ano po yung naka-inline sa major nila. So, the next one is unit outline and session plan. The first one is prerequisites of participation in the session. The second one is component of the session and estimated time. So, dapat nakaplano. Nasa title na po yun, session plan. So, dapat nakaplano na po yun lahat. So, ito sa second one, components of the session. Components mismo ng session and estimated time kung ilang hours ang duration ng session na gagawin nyo. So, the third one is visual aids to be used. So, yun, kailangan, nasabi ko na sa previous slide, na kailangan i-prepare yung mga visual aids, yung mga learning materials po, kumbaga. Next one is teaching notes. The first one, technical background. Kung ano po yung background na nyo. Like for us, students na naka-inline sa major ng electronics, dapat malaman namin yung mga background, yung mga basic. Diba? Basic na kailangang malaman para naman may background kami sa topic na yun. So, the next one is instructions for activities. So, diba? Nakano na yan. Always na po yan siya. Yung mga ginagawa po ng mga prof natin sa mga estudyante like us. Binibigyan tayo ng instructions before we were doing the activities. Ito po yung topic ko, given na po ito lahat. Usually, na-experience po ito natin mga estudyante. Kaya nga sabi ko kanina sa introduction ko, ito po ay brief reporting lang po lamang. So, dito naman po tayo. Kanina, nasa tayo sa trainers guides. Tapos dito naman, participants guides naman tayo. Session guide, yung sinabi ko kanina. Okay, first one is learning objective and the content of the unit. Same lang po yan sila. Nabanggit ko rin po kanina. Learning objective tips and content of the unit. Kailangan din malaman ng estudyante kung ano yung patutunguhan ng papag-aralan niya and content ng inaaral niya. Kasi di naman pwedeng na mag-aaral lang po yung estudyante tapos di niya po alam kung ano yung patutunguhan niya. So, the second one is basic information for participants must have before attending the session. So, yung basic information yung nanggit ko po kanina. Basic information dapat po itong gawin before mag-start po ang lahat. Para may, for example, ito po yung mga, like mga rules and regulations na sa loob ng isang classroom or sa loob ng isang facility. So, dapat i-imply na po yun para sa mga estudyante. Tapos, the third one is additional reading materials. So, yeah. Nabanggit ko na po kanina yung supplementary reading materials. So, ito, additional reading materials to gain more knowledge. So, ito sa baba, session notes. Ang session notes is containing basic technical information including definition of essential terms. So, given na po yun. Understandable na po yun kasi basic na po yun nilagay ko sa PPT ko. Session activities with worksheet and instructions. Alright, hope you have learned something sa report ko po. And that would be all. Once again, I am John Clyde Garces, a BTVTED electronics student. And thank you for listening.
Good morning, everyone. Before we start, let me introduce myself first. I am Janler Graciano, 3D BTVTED Electrical Technology. We will be discussing the consideration for developing a training programs are as follows. First is needs assessment and learning objectives. This is part of the framework development. Ask you to consider what kind of training is needed in your organizations. Once you have determined the training needed, you can set learning objective to measure the end of the training. Next is consideration of learning style. Making sure to teach a variety of learning style is important to development of training programs. Meaning to say, as a trainers rather, you make sure that you know to consider the variety of a learning style such as visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Next is delivery mode. What is the best way to get your message across? Is web-based training more appropriate or should I monitoring be used? Can this vestibule training used for a portion of the training while shadowing be used for some of the training too? Most training programs will be include a variety of delivery modes. Uh, Meaning to say, it it depends on the trainer's delivery mode if it's clear or not. Next is budget. When we say budget, it is about uh how ma ilan yung magagastos natin during the training. For example, in our qualification title which is EIM, Electrical Installation and Maintenance NC2. So, kailangan talaga na may sufficient na meron talaga tayong enough na budget para sa training program. Next is deliver style. Will the training be self-paced or instructor-led? What kinds of discussion and interactive can be developed in a conjunction with this training? Meaning to say, um, the trainer will decide whether he will going to do the instructor-led or self-paced. Next is audience. Who will be part of this training? Do you have a mix of roles such as accounting people and marketing people? What are the job responsibilities of these individuals? And how can you make the training relevant to their individual job? So meaning to say, we all know that the audience is our trainees and or the assessor and the processing officer as well. Sila yung nagiging audience. Next is content. What needs to be taught? How will you sequence the information? Meaning to say, as a trainer, you need to consider what kind of content na ituturo mo or paano ba yung sequence ng information mo using the objectives. Next is timelines. How long will it take to develop the training? Is there a deadline for a training to be completed? Meaning to say, pag sinabi nating timelines, ito yung parang kung ilang days ba maide-develop ni trainees yung training niya. Next is communication. How will you employees know the training is available to them? So, meaning to say, I know and I believe that the communication is very important to each and everyone or the individual. So, communication is very important kasi without communication, we cannot interact in each other or the other people. Last but not the least, measuring of an effectiveness of the training. As a trainees, paano mo ba masasabing na effective ba yung training na or yung content, yung you taught na ituro mo sa kanila? So, by demonstrating, may matutunan, masasabi natin na we can measure the effectiveness of training. Ganun po.
Good day everyone, especially to our professor. Ma'am, good day po. I'm Alwads Gapol Ibrahim, 3D from BTBTED, major in Electrical Technology. The topic is all about strategies. Training strategies must be appropriate to the educational level of personnel being trained and to the resources available in the country. feasible in feasible in terms of the amount of time and travel involved, and relevant to training program must consider the resources available. For an example, an individual working in a central medical store that uses a simple card system for inventory control should be trained in the operation of that system rather than a computerized system that may never be installed. Training programs must be feasible. Governments may not be able to allow a senior official to take an extended training leave, regardless of potential long-term benefits. Some officials may not be able to be absent from work for more than 1 week. Similarly, healthcare providers may not be able to be away from the patient population they serve if no backup staff support available. This factor is of particular concern in the private sector, where having staff away from work will result in facilities losing revenues and in providers losing income. Pre-service training is conducted at established training institutions and is often pre- prerequisite for hiring. In-service training may be offered in a classroom setting or in the work environment, either as a part of a planned staff development program or after an assessment of deficiencies has determined what training is needed at the workplace.